John's feelings towards Paul were multiple, they were ambiguous, they're clear, they're contradictory, there's all levels of them, and in this interview he expresses his attitude towards Paul in all different ways, ranging in full range from love and admiration to anger and hatred and bitterness, and the depth of the relationship we can only imagine.
I can't speak for George, but I pretty damn well know. We got fed up of being sidemen for Paul. After Brian died, that's what began to happen to us,
How would you trace the breakup of the Beatles?
After Brian died, we collapsed. Paul took over and supposedly led us, But what is leading us when we went round in circles? We broke up then. That was the disintegration. We'll be here a long time, so.
Where were you when you heard Brian died?
We were in Wales with Maharishi. We'd just gone down after seeing his lecture the first night, and we went down to Wales and we heard it then. And I knew that we were in trouble then. I didn't really have any misconceptions about our ability to do anything other than play music, and I was scared. I thought we fucking had it now.
So Brian died, and then we said, then what happened is Paul started to take over.
Well, that's Paul. Paul, I think Paul, I don't know how much of this I want to put out, I tell you. I think Paul had an impression, he has it now like a parent, that we should be thankful for what he did, But he kept, for keeping the Beatles going, but when you look upon it objectively, he kept it going for his own sake, But not for my sake did Paul struggle. But Paul made an attempt to carry on as if Brian hadn't died, by saying, now boys, we're going to make a record, and being the kind of person I am, I thought, well, we're going to make a record, all right. So I went along, we went and made a record. I think Paul had a tendency to come along and say, well, he's written his 10 songs, let's record now. And I said, well, give us a few days and I'll knock a few off,
When did your songwriting partnership with Paul end?
That ended, I don't know, around 1962 or something, I don't know. I mean, if you give me the albums, I can tell you exactly who wrote what, and which line. I mean, we sometimes wrote together and sometimes didn't, but all our best work, apart from the early days, like I Want to Hold Your Hand, we wrote together and things like that. We wrote apart always, But we wrote together because we enjoyed it a lot sometimes, and also because they'd say, well, you're going to make an album, we'd get together and knock off a few songs, Just like a job.
You said to me Sgt. Pepper's was the one. That was the album?
Well, it was a peak, And Paul and I definitely were working together, especially on Day in the Life,
Have the mic on the piano quite low, just keeping it like maracas, those old pianos.
Well, see, the way we wrote a lot of the time was you'd write the good bit, that was easy, like I read the news today, or boy, or whatever it was, or day trip or anything like that, and then when you got to stuck, instead of carrying on, whenever it got hard, you just drop it, and then we'd meet each other and I'd sing half, and he'd be inspired to write the next bit and vice versa.
I read the news today, oh boy, about a lucky man who made the grade. And though the news was rather sad, well, I just had to laugh.
On Lucy in the Sky, when did you realize that those were the initials?
Only after I read it, somebody told me, like you coming up about. Yeah, I didn't even see it on the label. No, I didn't look at the initials. I never play things backwards. I just listened to it as I made it.
Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Lucy in the sky with diamonds.
Every time after, I would look at the titles, see what it said. It never said anything. But Pepper was a peak, all right.
But in a way, the thing is, people...
Hello.
Yeah. People say something like, oh, that's the peak, And I'm just so amazed that I secretly thought that too. Well, John's done all that Beatles stuff and everything, you know. But this new album of John's is a real peak, you know. That's higher than any other thing that
Thank you, dear.
Do you think it is?
Yeah, sure. I think it's, you know,
It's a
Sergeant
real
Lennon.
revolution.
Paul possessed elements that John would have wanted to have as well. In other words, Paul was extremely charming to the world, and because of his diplomacy and charm, I think that the band flourished in a way. Whereas John's role was to really bring that spiritually nourishing energy to the band, and that really helped the band to survive and to expand and to be successful. They were taking two different roles. They were complementing each other, yeah.
What do you think of George's album?
I don't know, you know. I think it's all right, you know. I mean, I don't know how to say about it, you know. I think it's better than Paul's.
What do you think of Paul?
I thought Paul's was rubbish, you know. I think he'll make a better one when he's frightened into it. But I thought that first one was just a load of... I told you, light and whatever, you know, that crack.
Were you surprised when you heard it, at what he had done?
Yeah, I was surprised it was so poor, you know. I expected just a little more, you know. I mean, because if Paul and I are sort of disagreeing, and I feel weak, I think he must feel strong, you know. That's in an argument. So I was just surprised, you know. And I was glad too, you know. So, you know, I thought, yeah, you know, I suddenly got it all in perspective, you know.
What do you think Paul will think of your album?
I think it'll probably scare him, you know, into doing something decent. And then he'll scare me into doing something decent, and I'll scare him like that. I think he's capable of great work, you know. I think he will do it. I wish he wouldn't, you know. I wish nobody would, Dylan or anybody, you know. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I wish I was the only one in the world, you know, or whatever it is. But I can't see him doing it twice.
Assess the talents of George.
I don't want to assess him, you know. George has not done his best work yet. His talents have developed over the years, and he was working with two fucking brilliant songwriters, and he learnt a lot from us. And I wouldn't mind it being George, the Invisible Man, and learning what he learned. I don't consider my talents fantastic compared with the fucking universe, but I consider George's less.
How do you rate yourself as a guitarist?
I'm not technically very good, but I can make it howl, you know, and move. I'm an artist, and if you give me a tuba, I'll bring you something out of it. Now, ask Eric Clapton, he thinks I can play. Ask him, you know. That I have a definite style of playing. I always had, but I was overshadowed. Like they call George the invisible singer. I'm the invisible guitarist, you know.